Well, I'm just getting back. I went to the Titanic Memorial. So that's 3:24 a.m. Saturday, April 15th. 111 years ago, the Titanic went down. Let me start at the beginning. Let's go back a few hours earlier this evening, and I'll tell you the story.
I've made it to my shuttle. From here I catch a ride into Washington, D.C. "111 years ago tonight, April 15th.
In memoriam to the gallant men of the Titanic. The North Atlantic ice fields are perilous and rough, and only should be tested by those of sterner stuff. They're filled with fearful hazards for nautical machines, icebergs that look like mountains with jagged peaks and mean. But on this eve in 1912, a monarch of the sea traversed her waves with brazen stride amidst a night of glee. Unsinkable, they called her. Yes, unsinkable, their claim. But pride, not strength, would give this ship destiny and fame. Near 500,000 tons, the largest ship at sea, a mighty maiden of the waves, in length 883. A monument of science? No, a legacy of pride, a testimonial to those who needlessly would die. While children's heads lay nestled warm and snug through midnight hours, and husbands huddled next to wives, asleep in love's sweet powers. In upper decks, men smoked and sang and toasted with a drink, not knowing that the virgin ship would soon begin to sink. First rang the bells, then came the cries, and last the dreadful panic. And now all knew 'twould be the end of RMS Titanic. But in that hour of foul despair and fear unmitigated, a manly Christian cry for all was quickly circulated. "Women and children first," they cried. "Women and children first. To save your souls, you must give your lives. Women and children first." Amidst the tumult and the toil of lives then gripped with fear, a holy calm prevailed on those whose hearts and minds were clear. The cause was right, the mission pure, the path uncompromised. That men must die that others live, and men must give their lives. No greater love hath any man than he that lay down life, for family, for little ones, for dearest bride, for wife. What manly breast would sure recall, fail any breath, to give his life for womankind, a sacrifice of death? Women and children first, the cry. Women and children first. Some must live while others die. Women and children first. As water surged upon the decks and chaos reigned supreme, the band played on sweet hymns to God, which quieted the scream. Some raised their hands or cried aloud, while others genuflected, in fleeting hopes that dreams and lives might still be resurrected. Across the deck, 1,000 scenes of lives held in the balance, with prayers delivered unto God, heavenly reliance. While stokers, stewards, officers, and gentlemen unmasked, all lifted women into boats without regard to class. Women and children first, the law. Women and children first. The men would act, no fight, no flaw. Women and children first. One faithful father searched the deck to find his family, and rushing forward grabbed a girl near tossed into the sea. But though this little golden hair was to the man a stranger, he strapped to her his own life vest to save the babe from danger. At last he saw the face he loved and pulled her from the throng, along with tender tiny ones who thought him bold and strong. A little boy, a little girl, the world he held so dear, were waiting ignorant that time would bring their darkest fear. Women and children first, praise God. Women and children first. This principle we ever laud. Women and children first. 5 minutes he had to say goodbye. 5 minutes the all was lost. But giving his life for the woman he loved was hardly a waking cost. To the boats, my darling," said he. "To the boats," and his words did race. Then lowering them to those cradles of life, he paused, just one more embrace. And now he kissed those tender lips, and now he squeezed their hands, and now he hugged and spoke the last of love and wedding bands. "Be brave, my love, be brave, my son. years. God's ways are just, Christ rules above, and faith must hush our fears. Women and children first, said he. Women and children first. To be a man, I must set you free. Women and children first. At last he said goodbye to eyes which longed for him at home. At last he watched them pull away to safety through the foam. In moments he would be submerged beneath the icy brine, content to know his sacrifice had given them more time. Just yards away, a mother gazed back at the sinking boat. Her children bundled in her arms, warmed by their mother's coat. Prayer of hope on her lips, a Bible in her hand, a testament of love, faith, and of her husband's name. Women and children first, she wept. Women and children first. Stroking the girl's hand, she kept. Women and children first. Into the liquid tomb he fell, moments from paradise. With one last grasp, he clawed the waves and caught his dear one's eyes. His frozen face, his numbed hands, his body stiff and cold. An ocean legacy of heroism. Down to the depths Titanic sank, and into her watery grave. Bound by such forces that God agreed would render the Hulk enslaved, downward she plunged, in darkness so cold, taking no inventory. The perishing hundreds crowded her decks, bound now for hell or for glory. For women and children first they died. For women and children first. They put their faith before their pride. Women and children first. For those brave men.
Those brave men.
April 15, 1912, when the Titanic, on its maiden voyage, sank in the dark, cold waters of the North Atlantic. Some 1,500 people lost their lives that night. There were too few lifeboats aboard the ship. Many men gave their places to those so that women and children might live. The cry heard throughout those perilous moments was, "Women and children first." The bravery of those men who sacrificed their lives has been recognized as perhaps the greatest act of chivalry in history. Soon after the sinking, the Women's Titanic Memorial Association was formed through funds collected by the Women of America. This beautiful memorial sculpture, sculpted by Gertrude Vanderbilt Whitney, was dedicated to honor those brave men. The original site was near the Watergate on Rock Creek Parkway, where thousands of people saw it every day, but it was removed and placed in storage to make way for the Kennedy Center. It was reconstructed in this beautiful, remote location in 1968. A television feature reintroduced the memorial to the public 10 years later. The original dedication was attended by President and Mrs. Hoover and numerous luminaries. There were speeches and music by the Marine Band. There was a wreath-laying ceremony that day in May 1931, followed by annual ceremonies by the Women of America. When that lapsed in 1979, the Men's Titanic Society held its first wreath-laying ceremony here and pledged that we would return every year to honor those brave men. So we are here tonight to do so.
stand in humility and in honor of those brave men who made the decision to give up their place for the women and children of the Titanic. To those brave men.
The men of the Titanic really were different. The National Academy of Sciences recently published a report in which they analyzed 150 years of maritime disasters, 15,000 victims, and they found that the Titanic was one of the few disasters in which it wasn't every man for himself, literally. So to these brave men, we lift our glasses in honor of their sacrifices.
Hear, hear, hear.
We recognize those tonight who chose an icy fate for the benefit of to those brave.
Hear, hear, hear.
Standing on that cold deck with the icy waters below us, stand there and say, why me? Or would we, like they, say, why not me? To those brave men.
Hear, hear, hear.
To courage under pressure, beauty brave in action, those brave men.
Hear, hear.
John Jacob Ashley IV was the richest man on the Titanic and one of the richest men in the world. He came up to the rail as the lifeboats were being loaded. The crew member said, "Sir, you can't get on the lifeboat." He said, "I don't want to get on the lifeboat. I just want to check on if my wife is okay." With that, he took off his gloves and he tossed them to her to keep her warm in the boat and was not seen again. To those brave men.
Hear, hear.
44 years ago tonight, a small group of men came out here for the first time to honor bravery, chivalry, and honor. And we're standing here because of those men 44 years later, because they had a goal to remember the men that died at the Titanic. To those brave men.
Hear, hear.
The inscription on the back of the memorial says, "To the young and the old, the rich and the poor, the ignorant and the learned, all who gave their lives nobly to save women and children." To those brave men.
Hear, hear.